Welcome to the Earthworks podcast, where our team will share the jargon of carbon with many of the turf friends we've met over the past 35 years.
Hi, everybody. This is Joel Simmons, and this is another Earthworks podcast, and I have the great pleasure of having Tim Kortanek. Did I say that right?
It's close enough.
That's close enough.
Yeah.
Kortanek.
Yeah.
How about that?
Kortanek. There you go.
It's probably not an easy name, is it? But it's a good
Yeah.
one. Tim is the director of golf and grounds maintenance at Herons Glen in North Fort Myers, Florida. It's funny because I probably know 10 or 15 Heron Glens across the country.
Oh yeah. I get their sod too, like randomly.
So
it just shows up.
There's probably
Yeah.
more than one in Florida, isn't there?
Yeah. Yep.
In fact, my local municipality that I play golf, when I play badly, I play at a local course by my house that's called Heron Glen. And
Yeah.
it's a wonderful little track that I
It's
get to lose a lot of golf balls on a frequent.
yeah, whether it be heron something or pelican something.
Or probably,
It's a million of them. Yeah.
Are there a lot in Florida? Is there a lot of Heron Glens? I didn't check.
I think there's a couple other. But there's, Heron's Creek is right up the road.
Is that whose sod you're getting? Is Heron's?
That's the sod I'm getting.
Oh,
Yeah, but
great.
he's my buddy, so it's like I always call him, and
Is it good
we
sod?
chat about-
You keep some of it? I mean,
No, I'm like, well, we have Bimini here, so
Ah.
if I see something coming that's celebration, I'm like, get that out of here.
Yeah. Away from me. Let's talk about Herons Glen because I did some homework and it's pretty interesting. I mean, it's a big complex.
Yeah.
And you've got a couple weird. It's municipality,
Mhm.
it's public golf, but you've got the whole housing complex under an HOA, and then you have all of the recreation stuff under. One of your titles, I guess, and you said was on your paycheck, Herons Glen Recreation District. So that's a
Yes,
separate entity, and these are both legal entities, I assume, within within that organization. I assume you're part of the recreation district. Do you have to do anything with the HOA? Are you doing anything with homeowners?
So essentially, like, I have a superintendent that works under me for the golf course. But as director, I control all the community irrigation, which is my favorite part of my job. Not so much.
Right, I'm sure.
But we're undergoing replacing all of that controller system here pretty soon as well. So
you're controlling the irrigation for the entire homeowners for all the houses?
Yes, and the golf course.
How many houses?
1,300 doors.
Oh my goodness! So every one of them is irrigated by you.
Yes, yeah, and we do both affluent water and lake water. So most of it is all pulled out of our lakes. And if we ever get into a drought situation, common areas and stuff like that, we're able to water with affluent, as long as they're giving it to us, which it can be trying at sometimes.
Yeah, I'm sure.
When it gets to February, March, City of Cape Coral has a contract with the same affluent people, so they pay them because they're giving them $6 million a month. So
yeah.
But as they take care of us too, because we are a municipality, so we do get our back scratched, pretty well too. So
there's got to be a little bit of politics in this job of yours, isn't it? Do you have to?
100%, yeah.
Yeah. Are you dealing with? You got 1,300 homeowners that you're irrigating? Do you hear about this from various homeowners about why you're watering my yard, or how come you're not watering enough? I mean, I can only imagine the nightmare that this could cause.
Yeah, for the most part, it is in their like welcome to Herons Glen, packet that they receive. And I've been here long enough that the first 2 years it was like I have to do all this. It's like it was pretty wild. And aside from the golf course job, which is huge in itself, it was pretty overwhelming. But now that I've been here, I'm on 8 years now, and kind of got it as a well-oiled machine. So next step is replacing the actual controller system. So we're excited about that because after multiple hurricanes, we've had fiber optic come in and do boring, and government contracts that come in without permission to the HOA and district. It's taken a lot of damage on a lot of that irrigation. So, but it is part of it, and it's what I get paid to do. So it's all good.
So you've got obviously a separate irrigation system for the houses than you do for the golf course.
Yeah,
and that's what's being replaced is the housing system.
The housing system, yeah. Yes, yeah.
Is that
So
as
all the
much a nightmare as it is often on a golf course? I mean, you must have miles of underground
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah,
piping.
the piping is all going to stay. So all the PVC that's underground is
Yeah.
staying. It's really just the wiring and the controllers. Um, our current system is a two-core system. They were saying that what we have is going to be out of date by 2028. So we started researching uh, different systems to put in, and we have sections of the community that just aren't receiving power anymore, and that's just from damages, boring, you name it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, so probably the next 3 months, we have actually got a bid meeting next week, uh, and we're gonna pick a contractor and start throwing wire. So
Wow.
yeah,
That sounds like
our
that sounds like a huge job.
yeah our our commitment to the residents is they get 2 water cycles a week, and that's really all we have to supply. But because there's been damages to controllers and part of the system, um, yeah, it's we're not being able to give them that too. And so, I hear about it and it does kind of compound on stuff,
Yeah.
uh but luckily, my superintendent is fantastic. So he takes a lot of weight off my shoulder. His name is
Perfect.
Matthew Bourne too. I don't know if you want to put that in there, but um
Absolutely.
he's been in the industry almost as long as I have. So we work really well together, and I can trust him with anything. So that really helps me with doing that other part of the community irrigation, which I'd say is about 20% of my job.
So his
Um,
job is exclusively the homeowners group.
his job is exclusive golf course.
Oh,
So
he's the golf course side. Okay, I'm
he's the
sorry.
golf course. Yeah,
Gotcha.
he's
Gotcha. So
full
that you gives
blown.
you time to
Yeah,
do the rest of the stuff. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
That's probably the most important job in this industry, right?
It's a
Having a
pretty
guy like him. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's a pretty sweet gig. It's like the
Yeah.
doesn't have to worry about the residents, meetings, all that, but he enjoys it. He's great. He's not a guy that sits in the office, like he's out spraying and you name it.
Perfect. Yeah.
Like
Perfect.
wants it just anything to improve the golf course.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, we all need more of those. I
yeah.
think the biggest single question I
Hmm.
get is, "Hey, do you know somebody like that?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Matthew, that would be perfect to take over." But yeah, home.
One and when we switched over to Earthworks and started doing this program, like he was kind of essential in doing a lot of that because he had brought in a program. And I always tell the guys that are superintendents, I'm like, I want you to run your program that you're familiar with and that you like. And after going to the academy, I brought this information to him and I was like, I'm very interested in moving towards this direction. If you're okay with switching up your plan, it's like, let's try it out for a couple months and see what we do.
Yeah.
And he was all on board. So,
Oh, that's good.
uh, yeah. And so, we had switched from, a plan that was, I think there was 40 different bottles of something in my chem room, and I would look at them, and if it was my turn to spray or if he was on vacation, I'd be like, I have to do these six
Right.
different
All of
bottles at
this.
this rate and I was like, I don't know. And so I was always like that I'm a simplicity guy,
Yeah. So am I.
NPK,
Yeah.
NPK, and we're trying, honestly, we're trying to move uh towards a more organic approach. Um, both of us are very healthy and mindful of what we put in our bodies, and if I do it
Yeah.
for myself, I don't go eat at McDonald's and do all that, so it's like, why am I putting synthetics and all this stuff? And yeah, so he's very essential in helping out with the change, and being on board with it, and
Yeah.
and both of us love it so far.
It's an interesting point you make, though, and I've been saying this for years, is that, the analogy between human health and agronomics, soil health is really direct. I mean,
Hmm.
if you live a healthy life, you're
Hmm.
gonna be stronger, and if we can keep the soil healthy, you're gonna
Yeah.
be stronger. Since you brought this up, and I'm almost embarrassed by even mentioning this, but we met at Longboat Key, John
Hmm.
Riley's place, when we did an academy this past winter, I guess.
Yeah.
And that was your first experience with Earthworks? Was that your first? Did you know much about what we were doing prior to then?
No, I talked with, MD Health guys,
Yeah.
and I'd been getting some products from them. Honestly, like I always tell the Dillinger guys, I'm like, man, I feel like I'm copying everything Riley does, and I've played up at Longboat. multiple times before this, we always have the annual
Yeah.
event up there. So I kind of know what, I knew about his grass, but I had no idea like what his implement on there. But um, when I knew that that was really a part of his program and what he was
Yeah.
doing, then I was more interested because it's working for him, and I think a lot of guys kind of see what he's doing and kind of are following that. And if someone's doing the hard work for me, it's like I'll easily go in that. I'm always trying to work smarter and not harder, So
That's a great way to look at it. You got to be careful though with John. I brainwashed him when he was at Rutgers, so he's a little
yeah,
biased at this point. But
yeah.
no, a great, obviously a dear friend and a great guy to follow. What did you get out of that, if you don't mind me asking? And this is the part where I'm
Yeah.
a little uncomfortable asking those questions.
No.
But I'm always interested when somebody comes to one of our
Yeah.
academies. And you were first time, and what kind of what was the take home for you? What was the overall impression?
So as we mentioned, we're municipality,
Yeah.
high volume club. I do 55,000 rounds a
Wow.
year. Um, so
On 18
summertime,
holes?
18 holes.
Wow.
Yep. 18 holes, 130 acres. Um, and then the length I think is in the scorecard 6,500. So it's not like
Yeah.
a long course, but it's a fun course, like I'll tell you that. So it's just scoring, people get around real quick. But um our my whole idea, we have you know what I took away from it more than anything is how do I keep people happy all the time?
Yeah.
There's a demand for golf. The most times that they're not happy is when summertime hits and I'm airifying, 3 or 4 times. And then I think John said, he goes, yeah, we didn't even airify last year or somebody. And I was like, what? And that kind of blew my mind. And I was like, I'm thinking, and I've heard that a lot of guys, there's some clubs around here that, they're doing ninja tines, every three
Yeah.
weeks, getting that 1% out. And then, I was like, yeah, that's a great model as long as we can afford it. And so we started implementing that into our system. And we're still doing like a big aerification for like a 1 week closure. Whereas before we started kind of on this program, we were closed 1 week in June, 1 week in July, 1 week in August.
Wow. Really?
Those were our
Yeah.
aerification days for the greens. And so we would do,
And you were
uh,
pulling cores, those all three of those?
pulling cores, all three of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so those were
To
our
remove organic matter and thatch and things of that sort.
exact.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And then yeah, so on that note, like seeing there was one picture and I'll never forget it where it was what do you guys see here, and it's just straight humate, and in my
Nice.
brain I was
Yeah.
like yeah, that's what I want.
Right.
I want my soil to work for me and not produce as much organic material, black layer. um and a year later, we've really seen that kind of happening in our
Really
profile.
good. That quickly.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I know we had Marshall out last about a month ago, two
Marshall
months
Evans. Yeah.
ago. Yeah, and we took some pictures and I was like, is this what
He
I'm
sent those.
seeing,
He sent those to me. That's why we're
Yeah.
talking today, I think, actually,
Yeah.
which is great.
I was like, am I just like wanting to see this? And he
Yeah.
goes,
Yeah.
no, man. He goes, that's it. He's like, it's starting to work. And I was like, it's like, that's great, And these greens we renovated in 21. So they are fairly new. Like we don't expect to have a tremendous amount of, a black layer or really heavy
Coconut. Yeah.
organic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the
But
grass?
it is Tiff Eagle on the greens.
Okay.
And then we have Bimini throughout the rest of the
The
golf
rest of the
course.
property. Yeah.
Yeah, the rest of the golf course.
It's interesting because that's a conversation that's, and John Riley's been leading a lot of this, quite honestly, but it's a great conversation in the industry right now about I started by saying, is it good organic matter or bad organic matter? And the
Yeah.
picture that you were referring to was a picture of a green that was very well digested, and it was it drained very well, produced great roots. And the one thing that really strikes most people when we talk about that in the academy is how firm that playing condition is.
Hmm.
When you have humus as opposed to thatch, thatch is going to hold moisture. It's going to get very soft. When the ball comes in, it's going to splat. But when you have that all digested and broken down, it's going to be very firm, and it's going to be full of sand and top dressing, and the playability is phenomenal. But
Hmm.
it's the question then goes to, do you really need to remove that? And I will contend that you don't. And I think
Yeah.
that's what you're seeing in the industry. I think that's what John is talking about. And if it's good organic matter, why would we want to remove it? It's not,
Hmm.
it's helping us. It's
Sure.
feeding microbial populations. It's pushing roots down into the soil, and it's a wonderful playing surface. So I'm actually surprised that your changes have happened as quickly as they have, because it can take years,
Hmm.
depending on how ligneous that material is,
Yeah.
and how much it needs to be digested. So what you're seeing is microbiology working at its fullest, digesting and breaking it down. I mean, I make the analogy, it's like a little compost pile in the soil. It's breaking down that leafy material that you would have in a compost pile, but doing it underground through
Hmm.
microbial activity, and it's only going to get better. I mean, you're
Yeah.
still at the infancy of this process, and
Yeah.
and you'll start to find ways to move it across the golf course, and this is really the definition of biological soil management. So, when Marshall mentioned to me that you were going through all this, I'm thinking, oh, this is a good story. So that's why
Yeah.
I was so
Yeah.
anxious to get you on the podcast. But talk about the golf course. I know you've been there for 8 years. The renovation was when? Uh,
2021.
okay, so you were there for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Ron Garl did the renovation. Who was the original architect?
Ron Garl.
Oh, he built it
Um,
and did the renovations. Good.
well, he did in 91. And then 91 was when we first opened.
Okay.
And then Gordy Lewis did kind of like a minor redesign. It wasn't necessarily a redesign. I think they might have moved some bunkers, added
Yeah.
some drainage, things of that nature. Uh, Greens, I think, were a little different. They didn't have everything was hydraulic irrigation, so they converted to electric
Yeah.
at that time as well. So there's like a minor reno done. Greens were replaced in '06. And then from when I started in 2017, the previous superintendent, he's like, hey man, he goes, they got it budgeted, just so you know. He's like, we're scheduled to replace all the greens in 21.
Oh, good.
um yeah, and I took it from there, and that was just a greens renovation, and somehow I managed to convince them to do HDPE, full drainage.
Perfect.
They're just going to scrape the top, and I said, let's scrape them all from the bottom. So it became a lot bigger animal than what it was originally intended to, but yeah, in the end, went from a $1 million reno to a six.
So what was
But
the secret to get them from 1 to 6? I mean, what was your politics there? It must have been pretty amazing that you must have
yeah,
really
well,
been able to convince them of all this.
the existing irrigation, the PVC underground was just exploding all over the place.
Yeah.
We
So
didn't
you
have any
documented all that and you showed them all that.
100%. And then
Yeah.
we had all the fittings that they did were old porcelain fittings.
Oh,
So they were rusting out, and a lot of them were custom made. We had 4-inch pipe going, a T 4-inch to a 2.5, going out to a 3. And it was just the wildest fittings. Like when we had a break, I would dig it up, pull it out, bring it to my next board meeting. And they
oh,
like,
perfect.
like, guys, this is what we have
Yeah.
underground. And essentially they're like, we don't want to put money, $1 million in the greens and not be able to water them. And I like, that's kind of where we're going right now. Like, so we need to make some changes. And then
Yeah,
a
but you
couple
got them from
hurricanes.
1 million to 6 billion. That's impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. The drainage was all really, the drainage needed replaced as well.
Yeah.
We really needed a full grassing. We had 419 common, 328, you name it. But some holes were just all common Bermuda grass. And the signal grass was out of control.
Yeah.
torpedo all over the place. So essentially I was like, guys, we need to replace all the pipe underneath the ground, rewire irrigation, uh the greens instead of scraping them, and that was really it. It's like, if you guys are going to do it right, let's do it right. And because we are a municipality, um it wasn't an assessment to anybody. It was, we
Mm.
actually, as a district, we had some other projects going, so we were able to finance a bond.
Oh,
And
perfect.
the residents here, I think it just added on like $120 to their taxes at the end of the year. So a lot of them is a
That's nothing.
no-brainer.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah, exactly.
yeah. So we had a vote for it. I think it was 80 to 20% in favor of it. But since that, like I said, we've done uh brand new fitness center, bocce courts, just improvements in the
Pickleball, I saw.
ballroom, pickleball, yeah, yeah,
That's got to
yeah,
be in there.
pickleball. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's in there. So
So I
there's
mean,
just
I want to go back to this though. I mean,
yeah.
to get from $1 to $6 million, that's talent, man. I mean, that's quite a job. I mean, did you have a lot of politicking? Did you have to go out and really, shake a lot of hands? And I mean, what's the
For,
secret? If somebody was trying to do the same thing on their property,
mhm.
what's the secret to get it to
I
flip like that?
like you said, communication and
Yeah,
documenting. So many pictures of
perfect.
failures, and what is like, hey, this is, in the end, it was relationships with the people, the board members,
Yeah,
my boss too. I was like, "Oh, do you guys want me to be successful? This is what we need to happen to be successful." I just laid it down for him. I was like, I'll work here. It's like, but I was like, I can't recommend that we do a greens renovation without doing these other things, because it's just not gonna help us out. And
yeah,
we had a couple hurricanes too, like during that time
yeah.
as
I
well.
bet.
So a lot of trees uprooted, a lot of the irrigation came out of ground, a lot of the drainage was damaged. So at that time, everybody's like, yeah, just we kind of just need to scrape it and start from scratch and get this thing. And
Yeah.
and honestly, the demand had really gone up from what it was when I first started. Because it was
Oh,
before,
post-COVID,
yeah,
you're
before it
getting
was
golfing. Yeah.
low budget. Expectations were, hey, we just want to go out, shuck it around. And now it's, we have a premium golf course.
Right.
We need to treat it like this. And there's been a little conversion in membership too. I'd say a lot of the people, there's a lot of new faces, a lot of younger faces around here, a lot of people that are willing to sink money into it.
And want to
um,
play golf.
at a high level.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
yeah,
want they
exactly.
want
Yeah.
the
That's
conditions to
beautiful.
be, yeah, they want the conditions to be. And we told them, like, hey, there's a price for your expectations.
Yeah.
So if you want to go out and just shuck it around, it's like, we can do that. I was like, but if I was like, there's times where when I first started, I was like, wait a second. It's like, you guys only rake bunkers once a week. It's like, why? What's going on? It's like, oh, that's just what they expect. And I'm like, all right. And then the expectations, started to change from there. And kind of my expectations, I was like, well, we're not doing that. And I think when people started to see improvements on the golf course, then, they were willing to put their faith and money into me, that we'd have, something that we have today,
Yeah.
that,
Man.
that everybody loves. And fantastic ratings on Golf Now. I think we're rated number 2 in the state of Florida
Is
for
that right? Yeah, I knew you were high up there. I didn't know how high. That's great.
yeah, with the lowest budget, I'll add too. So yeah, everybody's
And
like,
you
well, when
should
you get
add
it,
that, quite honestly. That's
yeah,
impressive.
the membership's always like, well, who's number one? And I'm like, well, it's like they have like 30 employees per
Yeah.
18.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
it's a different
$500
animal.
million budget. Yeah, I got nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell me about your who you report to and what this structure is. I mean you've got a lot of balls in the air between the HOA, the housing, and then of
Mhm.
course the recreation district. What's the management structure?
So essentially, I have a general manager,
Okay, just
and
like yeah,
yeah, and he would be my boss. He reports to a board of directors, which I don't necessarily have to talk to them. He's kind of the liaison between them, but
nice.
I've known him long. I've known all these guys long enough though that I can talk to them, and we send each other texts and stuff.
Good, good.
The people that are on the board, and they're made up.
Communication.
They're voted on by the residents. annually, and I think they serve. I'd be lying if I knew the exact terms.
Yeah.
I think they serve 2 year terms.
They're all
Um,
residents. Everybody's a resident on the board.
they're all residents. Yeah,
Okay.
that are on the board.
So
Yeah.
they all live on the property essentially.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Perfect.
And then within the board, we have a district attorney that kind of just makes sure we're within the legality of everything that we'd recommend or
Yeah.
ask to do.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's really it. So, but I mean, I essentially, uh, my general manager, he's my go-to for almost anything.
Is the funding
Um,
coming from within the organization or is it coming from government,
So
local
this is
government?
this is what he tells me, and I didn't know this either. So I guess we have one of the most unique structures for my maintenance budget is directly whatever the pro shop makes in revenue is my budget. So
Really?
yeah, so we're going through our budget process right now, and what I've created, like, what is my budget? Let's just say like $2 million. So then I give that number to the pro shop, and he's got to be like, all right, well, this is how much membership rates are going to cost. This is how much outside play I think I'm going to come up with, or this is how much outside play we need to generate in order to get you at that $2 million
Get
number.
that number, yeah.
Yeah, so everything that goes into the pro shop comes to me.
Wow. So what if and say to play devil's advocate, what happens if golf rounds turn down or weather is so bad that golf rounds turn down? Does that affect your budget?
It wouldn't affect it in the end, and there is, from years back, there is savings,
Yeah.
if there is
You got
something
something,
where
yeah.
there's a surplus. And we've had hurricanes. We've never had an issue with it. I think that the biggest thing is just it kind of affects the next year as far as, all right, well, what's membership going to cost next year?
So they adjust
Um,
it that way. Gotcha.
yeah, it would always be based on that, and like we do. Our resident members are fantastic. My non-resident members are the greatest. It's
Yeah, of
like
course.
yeah, and we've got a huge waiting list on the
Oh,
non-resident
good.
membership too. So, um, public play has been increasing, and that's why we get great ratings. And another reason why, I'm more interested in limiting my aerifications on greens.
Of course.
Because if I can get more, when we put an aerification alert out on Golf Now, that decreases
Yeah, you lose
rounds.
revenue. Yeah.
The rating goes down.
Yeah.
So if I can limit my aerifications and not have organic material and have the soil working for me, that makes all the sense in the world to me.
Yeah, I've been saying that for a lot of years. It's starting to take hold. I'm not sure what's it's taken so long, but you'll definitely see that. I mean, when you work the soil properly, aerification will definitely become less important. Not
Hmm.
to say that airification isn't important, and that's certainly not the message here, but and obviously we need to make sure there's oxygen moving in through that soil, which is
Yeah.
a lot of what airification does.
Hmm.
But even what John's doing with the deep tining and the drill and filling and all those kind
Hmm.
of things are making big changes and working. Let me talk to you about some of the hurricanes. I mean, you guys have must have been in, ground zero for a lot of these things. How much damage have you suffered through since you've been there in all these years?
Yeah, I think, all right. So when I first got the job in 17, I believe it was Irma that came through,
Yeah.
and that was about 2 months after I started. So
Oh God.
that was a blast.
That was a big one too, right?
Yeah, Irma was a big one.
Was Irma the one that really wiped out Fort Myers?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And Ian, I mean, Ian was really bad for
Yeah.
Fort Myers.
Yeah.
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 Ian was just about, that was right after I redid the golf course in 21. We
Oh,
had
perfect
Ian,
timing. Yeah,
yeah,
great,
Ian
great.
come over there. Yeah. And then we also had tropical storms coming through, which really, then that kind of, like you were saying, how'd you get them to spend more money in the reno? It's like when you saw that, hey, this place doesn't drain, we got to shut
Right.
down the golf course for a week because you can't drive a golf cart on it. All
Right.
right, well, we need to improve all the drainage, and that kind of went hand in hand with it.
Is the
But
drainage hurricane proof
um,
to some extent?
I would say for
Obviously
the
I'm
most,
ignorant here.
yeah, for the most part, like I think that when we put it in, we have large enough pipe as far as now, that we can handle up to like 25% sediment that comes in. And that's kind of the entire sewage structure
Yeah.
for the community. all of our lakes are connected, and we all discharge out to which 41 is the main road.
Hmm.
So our lakes, they all discharge out there through one single weir. And that was really, we're kind of built low too.
Yeah.
So, and it really kind of slave to how high the lakes are. Cause, if the lake is over into my rough, then, my drain's probably going to be
Yeah.
topped off as well too. So that does kind of limit us as to there's times where I would go out to the weir every day just to be like, is it even coming out, just to see
Is
if
anything
there's
working here?
yeah. But yeah, and we're still low, if we got like our lakes are pretty full right now. If we were to get like we've got a little system coming in tomorrow and tonight, and we're already like, all right, we're kind of at capacity,
Yeah.
let's see what happens. But yeah, we're kind of a slave to the weir and to our lake levels. So unless we dig those out any deeper, then I mean that's the most hurricane proofing you can do for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I assume when the hurricanes are hitting, you're getting pretty flooded though, right?
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's
100%.
and you're getting a lot of salt deposited there.
Lots of salt. Yep.
So I've asked this of many Floridians that are managing golf courses. How do you manage that? I mean, how do you
Just truckloads of gypsum. Just
I just keep
just
pushing it?
let it
Yeah.
fly. Yeah, and a lot of guys just you get a 20-ton kilobrew, right after, and just
Yeah.
let it rip. Um,
Do you have fresh water that you can irrigate with? Are
uh,
the ponds brackish? Are they clear? Are they clean? Sodium free?
there's I've done salt content on them before, and it's
Yeah.
it's considerably low. We do pull from aquifers in
Okay.
our ponds, and like I said, we've got access. So for the golf course, I'm almost 100% affluent water. Um, and then
How bad is that water? Is it okay?
yeah, it's good. I mean, it is bicarbs. There's a
And
little bit
sodium, yeah.
and sodium, but we don't really notice a tremendous amount. We do our water testing and stuff. It's actually fairly decent compared
Yeah.
to what I've thought or considered it to be.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Had
lonely
it,
scary, but it can be okay.
yeah,
You just have
yeah.
to manage the soil around it and make sure that you're keeping it clean, flushing on a regular basis.
Hmm.
What does it look like after a hurricane? I mean, how much, I mean, after the water recedes and now you're sitting there with a lot of sodium in the soil, what's the property actually looking like? I mean, are you seeing,
Yeah.
you must be seeing some discolorization and things of that
Uh,
nature, right?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of times, until now we've got some backup generators and stuff. But a lot of times you don't have power for two
You know, yeah,
weeks.
so you're not running anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like if as long as your planning's okay, we've got enough fuel to maintain. This last one, we actually had residents out with sawzalls, like trimming trees off of cart paths and stuff. Just volunteers.
Oh, good.
Um,
Get the army
yeah,
out. That's a great idea.
yeah, no, yeah, it was pretty cool. So they helped out quite a bit because they're like, well, how long are we going to be closed?
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like,
I want to be back there.
I was like, give me like 2 days to assess this whole thing. I was like, we don't even have power now, but yeah, I was like, you'd be, well, you probably wouldn't be. I'm not amazed anymore at like how a natural disaster comes and how quickly people want to play golf. Like
Yeah.
when's the driving range going to be open?
Yeah.
And I'm
As
like, oh man,
soon as the power comes
I
back.
was like, I haven't taken a shower in 3 days, guy.
Yeah,
It's
exactly. I haven't
like,
had more than 3 hours of sleep.
yeah.
Oh, that's
But
too
no,
funny.
there is, and it's like it's a combination, like you say, of the salt. Um, you see a little tinge, stuff does kind of dry out a little bit because
Yeah, I would
right
think so.
after, even though you get that much rain, there's a lot of wind, and that
Yeah,
the wind desiccation is
yeah,
almost the worst. It's like especially you can just see the tips of everything, so it's all communicating to people is like, hey, we're going to grow out of this. Especially, I mean, I think Bimini would grow on the face of the sun.
yeah.
Um,
It's a good grass
like
for that area.
yeah, so it's like you just like I've seen patches, guys, like you do a sod pallet, and then
Yeah,
there's like 3 or 4 pieces left, or we're not going to use that, and it sits in the corner for a little bit, dries up, and then like, oh, that's garbage, we really need to get rid of that. First rain it comes, it just
yeah. Start
so it's, yeah,
grows
it's
out.
wild. Yeah,
Do
but
you plan? I mean, how do you plan for a hurricane? Do you have the sod guys sitting tight, holding a couple trucks of sod for you? I mean, what's the planning process when an Ian or somebody's going to come down and hit you?
yeah. I'd say, talk to the fuel guy. Fuel's, most
Fuel's important.
important
Yeah.
thing is make sure that we have fuel for everything.
Yeah.
Now we've got, make sure our generators are all working. We've got the standard, checklist for the employees, make sure that they're all taken care of, first of all, and that they're safe.
Yeah.
And that they can get to work and get back is, essential. Some people, Cape Coral was, I had a guy that couldn't get to me for a week, just because
Couldn't
the
get
street,
out. Yeah.
yeah, the storm surge had covered the entire city.
Oh,
So
God, I can't even
yeah,
imagine.
yeah. So all that, and then like I said, guys are putting down 4 pounds of nitrogen like immediately after, wall to wall gypsum, as much as you possibly
They're
can.
putting down 4 pounds of nitrogen right away just to try and grow it all out.
Well, not like in one shot,
Well, I would hope
but
not, but yeah.
they'll do like, their kilobrew. Hey, bring another kilobrew.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keep coming. So
So you're
because I
just
mean,
trying to push everything out. You're just trying to grow it all out.
anything that was in the soil is gone.
Yeah, exactly.
After that much rain, so you
Yeah.
get accumulation up to 20 inches. In some areas, and flooding in some areas. Then anything that you had in there is all gone.
Yeah.
So it's like especially, let's see, Ian and Irma both came September and like October.
Right.
And
Back
they
to
were both
back.
like, well, in that time frame. And so you
Yeah.
you think you're doing all your summer aerifications, up until then, loading everything up, because October is when, most of the residents come down. It's our time to really,
Yeah.
it would kind of take the brakes off of a lot of the heavy
Yeah.
aerification and stuff like that. So it's like guys have already done, 3 aerifications, done all their wall to walls, and then you get a hurricane, and
Yeah.
it's like, all right, well, we need to just redo all of that one more time,
Yeah.
and
Didn't
just
you
get the
get you
soil
got a
back.
back to back though last fall, didn't you? Didn't you have two hurricanes within a month's time that were pretty damaging? I don't know if they hit you
Um,
both. I know they were in that area. I mean, there was,
yeah, yeah. There was one that skirted by us. So Ian
yeah,
was the big one that hit us,
yeah.
and then man, my memory is failing me. But there was, I can't remember the name of
I'm
it.
sure
There
you're
was
trying
another
to
one right
forget
before.
hurricanes. I'm bringing up bad memories, but
Yeah, there was one that was that skirted up and kind of went up to Tampa,
yeah,
but where we live is Charlotte County here, in this North Fort Myers area, did receive like a lot of the storm surge on that
yeah,
one.
you
But
got the back end of it. Yeah,
the wind and that one wasn't quite as bad. But yeah, it was like right next to it. I'm trying to remember, it did go through Tampa and
yeah.
there,
I know
but
John Riley was getting flooded twice in a back-to-back scene.
that area, yeah,
Yeah,
that
that area. Yeah,
where he was, yeah. And
yeah,
I mean, it's close, but in a
yeah.
hurricane, it's like, are we going to evacuate or not? But
Yeah.
because you
You know,
never know,
most
it
people
changes the day
listening to
of.
this have no concept of what you're living through with all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's, we might get some nor'easters up here in the Northeast, but nothing like what you guys deal with on a regular basis. And,
Yeah.
just the prep work on it all. I mean, it leaves us, really,
Hmm.
hanging, but it's pretty
Yeah.
interesting.
I mean, there's a lot of guys too that we talked about one of the hurricanes in our meetings, and this one guy like blew me away like that. He's like, yeah, he goes, just in one of my off acres, he goes, I just have rows of oak trees that I'm growing. He's like, just to pull them to replace
Yeah.
anything that falls down. It's like, so guys are even building their own nurseries to restock plants, trees.
Really? That makes sense.
Yeah,
I mean, I
yeah.
would assume you probably lost a lot of your trees, if not all of the trees over the
Over, over
yeah.
1,000, since I've
Wow.
been here. Hmm.
So are you replacing them, or what happens after, a season of hurricanes and you've lost half your trees? I mean, are you trying to replace some of them? What happens?
Some of them we do, but then again, we've got houses around the golf course,
Yeah.
so uh, uh, a lot of times, any tree that's been close to a house that has fallen or fallen on a house, we've just gotten rid of them, and we're not replacing those.
Yeah, I would think
Just for
not.
that reason, the residents are in charge of their insurance if that happens as well. It doesn't lay
Yeah.
on the district's responsibility.
Yeah.
So, and so anybody that does move in here and they see a tree behind their house, they're like, "Hey, can you take that out?" So
Yeah. Just get rid of
there's there's not like I said, with 55,000 golfers out here, we're trying to move rounds,
it. Yeah.
so making it as easy as possible. And what oak roots do to,
Yeah.
how vast they are and expansive, and even palm roots for that matter of fact, or
I don't know palm roots. Are they big too?
Yeah, palm roots. When we were digging out a lot of the greens, we removed a lot of the palms
Oh,
around the
really?
greens.
Okay. So they're
Yeah, I was like, hey, we got to get rid of these. And people were like, well, I really like the backdrop of the palms with the greens. And as soon as we dug it out, I was like, we found just huge roots going right underneath the green system. So it was like that was another thing that was kind of eye-opening for a lot of people.
and I'm sure once you took them out, they were like, "Oh, this looks great. This is fantastic. We should have done this years ago."
And it's wild how much you see like after a hurricane, you see all these trees down, and you're like, man, this place will never look different. But I drive around today, it's like I couldn't even tell you where that tree was. There's a few spots where
Yeah.
I'm like, man, we used to have this great oak tree here, and but they're not missed, by
No,
any
they're never
means.
missed once you
So
get them down, and
yeah,
you can get light onto the green, and the green stays
yeah,
healthier.
yeah.
You know, which is kind of crazy. Let me talk a little bit about your background. We kind of broached on it, but where did you all start this, and how long you been in the business, and where you from originally? I don't even know.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, from Indianapolis,
How are
Indiana.
you? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, so Indianapolis, I went to Purdue University,
Okay.
got my turf degree. I always tell everybody I'm just a glorified farmer, so it's
Yeah,
like
well,
it's
that's what we are, right?
yeah, agronomy degree. It's
Oh,
like that's
so
how.
you got a 4-year agronomy degree.
Yes, yeah, yeah. And I had done like some internships out west. Always thought I was going to be in the mountains, and then I was playing a lot of golf at the time too. So I wasn't interested in that. I did one internship. I was like, it's like I don't really know about the cold. And then I was talking to the guys. I was like, what do you guys do in the winters? And he's like, yeah, there's a lot. There's some time off. He's like, but we're out trimming trees and doing this too. And I'm like,
Where
yeah, I
was
don't
this?
know.
What state?
Nevada
You were in
and in
Nevada? Okay.
in Colorado, yeah.
Colorado, yeah.
So Lake Tahoe area.
Oh, that's tough.
Um,
There's some snow
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. So and even the internship, I was like, man, I was like, I didn't pack a coat, So it was like it was June, and I think it was May, and I was in a bobcat freezing my butt off,
What ports were you
So
at in Lake Tahoe?
Montreux,
Okay. Yeah, it
yeah.
can be
So
really bloody cold up there, man. It's 20
yeah,
feet of
yeah.
snow
It
in the
was
winter.
it was freezing in the morning and hot in the afternoon,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
yeah, it was different. But um I had a job opportunity in Utah, and then a job opportunity in Florida down at Ocean Reef Club. And after the visit down to Ocean Reef, it's really hard to say no when you go visit that place if you've
Yeah.
ever been there.
Yeah. No, I've been there.
Um
It's beautiful.
yeah, and so they were able to put me in like on campus housing at Ocean Reef Club too, which made sense. Um, so I worked there for about 2.5 years, and I would have stayed there for a while, but then I wasn't able to stay in the on-site housing.
Um,
Transitioned up to Homestead, and um, Homestead's a lot different now than it was back in like '04, '05. And my boss was playing a lot of golf lately, and he said, hey, he's like, I got an event over in Naples. He's like, you want to tag along? He goes, they do this whole party and stuff. And I was like, sure, let's go,
sure, let's go.
Yeah. So
I'm in.
yeah, yeah. So came over, in the Everglades chapter was having their POA event,
Mm,
and at that time, even Naples it's 20 years ago. Even Naples was kind of just growing,
yeah.
and it's crazy now, like how
Yeah, it's
much they've
crazy.
developed. But I remember driving past all the new golf courses being constructed, and we were on our way back to work, and I said, "Hey, boss," I was like, "I hate to tell, I'm going over there, man." I was like, I was like, it's,
I like
uh,
that area.
well, and it wasn't even necessarily that. I just saw the opportunity to become a
Yeah.
superintendent sooner, and I was like, newer golf courses. And I know, Ocean Reef, I was like, I wasn't sure how long my boss was going to stay there.
Yeah.
I wasn't really looking to pursue anything around Homestead as far as golf went, or even in the Miami area. Um, so it was kind of natural, and then job popped open for what they called like a superintendent in training, and it was a glorified assistance
Right.
position
Yeah.
more
It
than
sounds like
anything.
it.
Yeah. So and that was with Rick Tatum down at Gray Oaks, who passed away like a
Yeah.
while ago.
Yeah.
But he hired me, and that was kind of really Ocean Reef Club was a lot different than Gray Oaks. There was a lot more
Yeah, I can
demand at Gray
imagine.
Oaks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little more laid back at Ocean Reef, but they're actually different now then too. So it's like it was kind of different coming
Golf
over.
is changing.
Yeah, it was wild. But yeah, worked at Gray Oaks for a while down in Naples as a superintendent in training. Then actually had a superintendent job offered to me at Shadowwood Country Club
Oh,
in
really?
Estero.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I worked there for about 4 years, and I was commuting going from Naples to Estero, which isn't a huge drive. I think it's like half an hour. Um, I had a position open that was a little bit closer to me, and it wasn't really like Shadowwood's a 36 hole. I always wanted to work multi-course, and so
Okay.
I had an 18 hole job that opened up. It was still under a superintendent, and I was essentially, once again, it would be me as like an assistant working for him, but the pay was a little bit more at the time. It was closer to home. I think the golf course was like 70 acres. So
Oh,
at the time I was like starting a family too,
yeah.
so having a kid. So the money was definitely enticing for that, and just
Always
being
helps with
closer.
kids, I heard.
And yeah, and just being closer to the
Yeah.
kid
Yeah.
too, that was essential too. So um it was kind of the same deal too. So when I worked there, we weren't necessarily a municipality, but we did control homeowner irrigation as well. Um, so that was at Cypress Woods down in Naples. And kind of that relationship there helped me get this job because they're
Yeah.
like, oh, you do
You knew
community
some of that. Yeah.
irrigation down
Yeah.
there and you're doing this. Um, I spent 4 years down at Cypress Woods, and then it was kind of random. We would we came up north. I just at that time, Naples was getting pretty busy, and we were looking for like housing, and I was like, and it's like we're gonna have to move pretty far out, out east, to afford houses to come
Yeah, I can
work,
imagine where you are. Yeah.
into Naples, and so we started looking at like other houses, and it's just stuff pops up in your feed or when you're looking.
Yeah.
And I never thought that my wife would be up for it, but at that time I was like, let's go see, Florida's such a cool state. I was like, on our weekends off, instead of just hanging around, we went to the beach quite a bit. We still do. Um, and I was like, let's go check out. I drive by. Uh, at the time, I was, like Bradenton area. Like we
Yeah.
drive by this all the time, and we had family up in St. Pete, so it's like going from St. Pete to Naples. I was like, let's go pop in Venice. Let's go pop in Sarasota and
Check
check
it
out,
out. Yeah.
in Bradenton, and randomly, like one of the times, just Punta Gorda. I was like, man, I was like, what's over there, And like I'd heard some people in there like, oh, there's nothing over there. I was like, let's just go check it out and see. I was like, there's a brewery up there. I was like, let's go see
The
what's
important
happening.
things. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. I was like,
Right.
let's go. I was like, let's go. I was
Let's
like,
see
let's
what
just
we
go
want to
see.
do. Yeah.
Yeah. And we knew that there was like restaurants on the water and stuff
Mhm.
like that. So we came up like on a Saturday and just fell in love with the place.
Oh, good.
And we were looking to, and I was like, well, I was like, I could drive down. It's a half an hour drive from here to Naples. It's the same as if we stayed in Naples and moved further east,
Yeah.
where the majority of the development is now. Um, and that was our plan. And we had looked at houses, and then this job kind of popped up. I was like North Fort Myers, and we're on the very cusp of Charlotte County.
Oh,
So
perfect. Yeah.
North Fort Myers goes into Punta Gorda. And the area we're looking at the house, like I told Mandy, I said, this is 5 minutes away from the golf course that just popped up. So
It's
it
starting to
was,
fall into place here, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like, so it all kind of
There's a
made
reason
sense
for all
and
this.
worked out. Yeah, it worked out great. So, yeah, so I still live, 5 minutes away. I can come home at lunch.
Oh, that's
There's
sweet. See the
one
kids,
stop,
whatever. Yeah.
one stoplight between me and the golf course.
Oh,
So,
wow.
just coming in, I mean, just we drive by all the time to go shopping or whatever, or movies, and
Yeah.
it's like I just pop in the golf course real quick and you just check on things. So,
But you can't
yeah, it's
drive a
been.
cart there, can you? You got to get in the truck,
Uh,
don't you?
there's trails like
Oh, there you go. You should
probably,
figure
yeah,
that out. Yeah.
yeah. we
Well,
we're
that
we
sounds like it's just as good as any as any on house or, on property housing, but you're
Yeah.
not on property, which is great, which is,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. That's very
But
cool.
that's pretty much my history.
Tell me your story about how you fell in love with the game of golf
I was playing
as
when
a
I was a
kid.
kid.
Yeah.
I think I was one of those kids who I wanted to do basketball. If it was like, hey, let's do a bowling league, it didn't
Right.
matter what
Just
it
do
was.
something.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, and even like to this day, like I like randomly like play a lot of disc golf, like frisbee golf.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and so that's like one of my main hobbies right now is, and main really because I can do 18 holes in an hour and a half, so
Right.
the time
Exactly.
time is
Fast and
there now.
furious.
But golf itself, my dad played. My mom, she put me in a summer camp, and after that, my whole thought process was, and I needed, yeah. So as a kid, I was playing, and then I started getting into the workforce, and one of my buddies was working at a golf course,
Oh, there you go.
and
That's
he
how
was
you
doing
figured out you can make a living on playing golf
was a lot
or in
of
golf.
it was hard to find I wanted to make money, and so as a 16-year-old, it was one of the few jobs that was like, hey, we'll use you for the summer and make you full time. You can work 40 hours. I was home by 2 o'clock. It was
Yeah.
like I just had to wake up early, which now is not a
Which
problem.
sucked,
It's
but
it was
yeah, when it
yeah,
started, it sucked.
yeah. When it started, it sucked, but
Now you
and
can't
then
change it, and for the rest of your life, you'll be getting up
yeah.
at 4:30 in the morning.
And I knew at the time that I wasn't a good enough golfer to,
Yeah,
be in the pro shop or anything,
yeah.
but I loved working outside. I had actually done, when I went to school, I was like, I wasn't initially a turf degree. I went for engineering, and then I thought about doing finance. And
Wow.
the engineering was fine, but I was like, yeah, it's like I just don't know if it's my bag. And I started doing finance, and at the same time, the whole time I'm working on golf courses, in Indianapolis and surrounding Purdue University
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
So, and I was like part time at a lot of those, but I had done after my first semester of doing finance, I had an internship with Fifth Third Bank, I think it was, and it drove me crazy because I was the teller who like would give people the money outside. So I'm staring outside the entire time.
Oh,
And the golf course that I worked at before, I took that internship was right behind me.
oh,
Like,
great.
man, and so it's like on my lunch break, I would go see the boys in the shop, and I told the parents at the time, I was like, I got to get back into the golf course, and so, and luckily enough, Purdue had a great program for it,
Yeah, yeah.
unbeknownst to me at the time. So, uh, I
So
was
when did you
changed.
discover that you could actually make a living on a golf course? I mean, did you think when you were working as a kid on a golf course, this is a career path, or was it just a job?
It was just a job until really college,
Yeah,
until I realized how much I like to work outside and be on
yeah,
the golf
yeah,
course.
exactly.
And then, I started like playing a lot more too. And when I figured out that, hey, I don't have to pay for it,
Right,
that was
exactly.
incentive enough. And then even in college, I was like, man, I'm going, my internships were at super elite country clubs. And
Yeah,
I was like, I get to play golf here. And it's like, and now it's like I'm surrounded by thousands of golf courses,
yeah.
which is a phone call away. And, I get to have my friends come, my parents come, everybody kind of enjoys it. And it's just one cool thing. I never just wanted like one of those cookie cutter jobs too. So it's always fun. My wife loves telling people that I'm a superintendent.
Yeah. Oh, really? Oh, that's
She's
good.
yeah, she's in sales and stuff. So she's always like, oh yeah, they love your golf course. Keep it up.
Oh, that's
So
cool. That's very
yeah,
nice to hear that. Do you
yeah,
play your own golf course much?
yeah. I try to get out at least once a month.
Okay.
But I'm trying to amp that up a little bit more now.
Playing with board
My
members or playing with members in general?
most of the time guys that work here, so
Okay.
other people that work, yeah. Like I said, I'm not into the 6 hour round, so I'm a play 12 guy, honestly. Like
Yeah, I don't
I'll
blame
do
you.
I'll do nine, and it's hot, and we do 55,000 rounds. Like there's a weight, and so This time of year, like I'll go out and play 9 holes.
Yeah.
And that's like kind of what I like to do.
Yeah.
And I'm not extremely competitive either. I just like to go out and have fun. That's my thing. So if it ever comes to and I'm not having a good time, like I'll just pack it up. And so that kind of is nice to not have to pay for rounds of golf, but you can just decide
Yeah,
like
no,
that as
that's one of
well.
the
Yeah.
best benefits. It's one
Hmm.
of those things that, it's an enticement to bring people into the industry too. That, hey, you can play some free rounds of golf.
Yeah, it's one of the best benefits we have for our
Yeah,
employees too. I've
get a
got a
guy that wants to play
handful
golf.
I got a handful of retirees that work part time. They
Perfect.
cut, mow rough, go play 18.
Yeah.
And they love it. They love it.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's superintendents that's what they want to do. They get in an RV and drive around the country and just want to have some rounds to, play some golf.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's not a bad thing. How hard is labor for you in Florida? In that area of Florida? Is it hard for you to find people?
I we've I think we've developed like one of the better teams, and maybe that's one of my best besides growing grass is just team building. We've
Perfect.
got we've got a decent benefit package. I was able to get a lot of guys way better raises when I first came on to kind of match uh, other other courses around the area. There was a lot of retention problems when I first started.
Yeah.
And I've had the same, we've got 17 people on staff. I'd say easily 12 of them have been here longer than 5 years.
Oh, wow, that's
Um,
wonderful.
yeah, so there was a bit of turnover at start, as there always is, new boss,
Yeah,
new
yeah.
regime. And but a lot of the guys that are working here, we're in municipality. There's like they get a month of vacation and time off, so and that's all paid. And benefit package is fairly decent. And like I said, thinking outside the box a lot, there wasn't any part-time job openings, and I told the bosses at the time, I said, like, it's like, hey, there's all these retirees that want free golf, it's like the bulk of my work is from 5 a.m. until 9. Like once you guys are on the golf course, I'm screwed. We can't
Yeah, I
do
can't do
anything.
half the work I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, so I might as well just hire, 4 or 5 guys, for part time at that. And that's really worked out great for us.
Yeah, that's brilliant if you think about it, especially where you are. I mean, you
Mhm.
probably have a fairly large retiree community that would love to spend a couple hours, running around a golf
Yeah.
course and then playing some golf.
Yeah. No, that's
Tap into that. Are any of these actually members at the property, or any of these people that live in the community?
well, no, our bylaws don't allow
Oh,
that.
okay.
Yeah.
So there's rules.
Yeah.
That makes
Yeah.
sense. But at
But
least,
the,
yeah.
yeah. But there, I mean, there's the neighboring community, like a lot of them are just from the guys just right next door.
Gotcha,
So,
gotcha. How do
yeah.
you recruit them? How do you go find them? Or do they find
Uh, Word of mouth has been the biggest
strong? Yeah.
thing. I got a couple guys too that I'm like, hey, it's like as soon as your son gets older, so we got family members in here. Um, and then I haven't had, I mean, I haven't had to put out anything in a
No,
long time.
that's wonderful. That's great.
Yeah, but through Indeed, I think, and the last time that I actually had to do an Indeed search was probably 2.5 years ago, to get in somebody. So a lot of, like I said, the team that we have here, everybody loves coming to work. They all work really well together.
Perfect.
Um,
Well, that's
and
culture,
so
and that's obviously that's coming from you, so that's wonderful.
mhm. I think I've got like 7 or 8, applications that we're sitting on, and I have to tell people no more than anything. It's like we just don't. I wish I could hire you. That'd be great. And
That's a good position to be in.
yeah, every budget process, I ask for 2 more guys. And see
Yeah,
if it floats through. And um, but yeah, we've been doing all right.
perfect. Well, you won't believe this, but we've just run through an hour, and
Hey,
like I told you, it would go very fast
yeah,
and furious. But I am grateful for your support, and I'm really anxious to see, what the property agronomically looks like in another year or two. I think every year that you go down the path that you're going down, it's only going to
mhm,
get better and better. And I'm
yeah,
anxious to get. I told Marshall this that I want to get down there as soon as we get down in the area the next time.
yeah.
I'd like
Next
to.
week, yeah, next week we're doing our 333 renovate
There
plus.
you
We
go.
we we can't,
In the
yeah,
hole.
we can't wait. We can't
Yeah.
wait.
that's a foundation for us. It's been wonderful, and that's the starting point of getting all that stuff to digest. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just keep looking at it. Just keep pulling that probe. Keep the probe with you, and you'll feel it, you'll see it.
Hmm.
It'll start changing, and it's going to make your life a lot easier, and you'll sleep better at night. I think that's the most important thing.
One other thing, and I don't want to
No, go
derail,
ahead.
but because we didn't talk about it, but when we were in the academy and when we were talking about nematode populations,
Mm,
uh, I said, hey, let's, after 3 months, let's pull some samples, get nematode counts through the roof as expected. Um, we did another nematode count just as recently as like a month ago, and almost zero lance sting, just a few spiral. So I think part of just having that competing
right.
uh,
Some biology
population.
working, yeah.
Yeah, I did, and that was one of the sales things that I was, hey, I want to try this if it's going to help us biologically control nematodes, which are an enormous problem down here that are worse than hurricanes.
Yeah, I can
So
imagine.
yeah,
How bad
yeah.
were they before you started
triple
doing?
digits, triple
Really?
digits on counts. Yep, sting, lance, and our last report was phenomenal, and we can see it. We can see it on the top too.
So you're starting to reduce, and how long a time period are we talking about since you started the process to the time you're really seeing this change?
We started last August, fully going full bore on the foliar and the soil program,
Yeah.
with C3 as well.
Yep.
Um, uh, and I mean, we just did our count, 2 months ago. So I'd say 8 months, 8, 9 months, we saw a drastic reduction. Now we are doing, the recommended nematicides,
Of
but
course.
we've been
But
doing
they
those
were,
for
yeah,
the last
they're
7 years as
constant.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you start to see, did you start to notice it on the surface before you started doing the counts? I mean, did you start to see that the damage was not as strong?
We had a pretty good idea, yeah. So
Yeah.
we were excited to send them to the
Oh, that's
lab
good.
and really
Yeah.
and see if like what we are seeing is actually computable. So
Yeah.
having that benchmark is, for anybody who's gonna start it, I'd say, man, do and the guys at MD Health are fantastic with um, doing all that legwork for you
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So it's like I was like, all right, let's put it in the system for a little bit, see where we're at. And then, yeah, we were very happy with our latest results.
That's fantastic news. Yeah, that's what biological soil management should be doing. It's
Mhm.
creating that checks and balances, and nematodes, should be, easy enough to take a hold of. One thing that we should talk about one of these days is getting you on a monitoring program where we run a couple paste extracts on your greens, and I'd be happy to
Yeah,
do that. So I
yeah,
will reach out to you after the fact, or have Marshall reach out to you. But let's
okay,
look at some of the data too, and then we can start correlating that data to even some of your nematode trial stuff. So, we
I
can
meant,
probably see some of that on chemistry, but really what we're looking at here is biology. But that's great.
yeah,
That's fantastic story. I love that.
yeah,
I might steal that and make that a turf talk if you don't mind.
yeah, not a
That's
problem.
that's the
I
kind of
mean,
stuff
it's
that people want to hear.
sure. It's I had this. I mean, two things that I wanted was humate layer,
Yeah.
decreased nematode population, and it's worked.
Yeah, and the humus layer is real important because that's the digested part of that organic matter. So,
Hmm.
and thatch and all that other stuff is coming directly from the imbalance of carbon to nitrogen, too much synthetic, and you've changed that, you flipped it, and it's I'm just overwhelmed at how quickly you're seeing that kind of reaction. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
fantastic. So keep it up, and I look forward to getting down and visiting. And like I said, we'll let's run some monitoring tests and see what the data looks like for you.
sounds good. Yeah,
Thanks,
sounds
Tim.
good. All
Appreciate
right.
it.
Yeah, not a
Appreciate it
problem.
all. And if folks, if you haven't subscribed to this Earthworks podcast, please do. You'll get to hear some great conversations like we just had. Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks,
Talk to you
Joel.
soon.